So, ladies and gentlemen, we now move into something very, very special, and this will be motivating, inspirational. So, all those who are seated behind, I request you to please come forward because there are very few of us left now. So, it's better to look a bit crowded for our next. Yes, we can't call her a presenter. She is much more than that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just give you a brief introduction about who this dignitary is. She is an accomplished and a very passionate mountaineer, certified skier, and a mountain biker on a mission to scale the 7 highest peaks of the world. She has summited 4 out of 7 peaks and has also attempted Mount Everest in 2019. She holds a Limca record for riding the longest distance in a foreign country. She was the only civilian woman to successfully complete Siachen Glacier Expedition in 2016 with the Indian Army and is also a podium finisher for some of the toughest mountain biking races in the world. She wishes to break the stereotype that makes women seem weak, and she would want to inspire more women out there to believe in themselves and follow their inner passion. Outside of adventure, she works as a vice president with Marsh, McLennan companies with over 17 years of work experience. And she has been able to integrate work-life balance by following her passion and holding on to a stable job while promoting the importance of having the financial freedom for women. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the one and only Vamini Sethi.
Hi, can you all hear me? Okay, great. So thank you so much for having me over. This is I think this is the second time I'm interacting with the NASCOM audience. And I'm very excited to be back here on this stage again. So thank you very much. I know we have very limited time left, so we'll get started. Right. We often want to hear from people, who are successful. But how often do we want to hear from those who have failed? In 2019, May 23rd, I was almost on top of the world at 8,300 meters, with Everest at 8,848 meters. I remember feeling physically fit and ready for that final ascent that would take me to the top of the world. But instead of going up, our entire team had to come down on prediction of the bad weather.
Extremely disappointed as I record this video. We couldn't summit because of the bad weather. Made it till Camp 3, 8,300 meters. We were this close. We were supposed to attempt the summit push the same night. And as soon as we arrived at Camp 3, we were all called back because of the bad weather reports. Well, there was a lot of planning that went into this trip. I'm not sure if I can do this again. 2 months away from work, away from family. Hard luck.
On my way back at Kathmandu airport, I was putting my luggage back on the scanner when a security personnel saw me. I was wearing this T-shirt that read Everest, Scale Your Summit, so they knew that I was coming back from Everest. So the security personnel walks up to me and he asked me in excitement, in Hindi. He said, "Upar pahunche?" I was just so disappointed with this entire episode of coming back from 8,300 meters, I just didn't know what to tell him. So I just kind of snapped at him, and as if he was responsible for the bad weather, I said, "No, we didn't make it to the top. We came back from 8,300 meters because the weather turned bad." He heard me, quickly went back and came back with a newspaper. He showed me the paper and he said, "Inko jante ho? Do you know them?" There were 2 names written on that newspaper. I nodded my head and I said, "Yes. These people passed away on Everest this year, on the south side of the mountain." He said, "आप ही के साथ जा रही है इनकी bodies, आप ही के aircraft में. और एक और बात बताऊं, ये तो ऊपर भी पहुंच गए थे." He said, "Their bodies are going back with you in your aircraft. And guess what? They even made it to the top." Before I could respond to that, he went on saying, "आप तो बहुत lucky हो मैडम, आप तो चल के जा रहे हो, नहीं तो आप इन्हीं के साथ लेटे होते." He said, "You're very lucky that you're going back on foot, or else you would have been lying down with them." I still get goosebumps when I narrate this story. When he said that to me, I had nothing to say to him. I just looked him in the eye, I smiled through my own pain, and I proceeded to the next counter. You know, the words of the security personnel echoed in my ears for the rest of my journey. You know, very often we focus on negative when things don't go our way, and when we do that, the positive just slips away like sand through our fingers. You know, till now I was contemplating if the decision of turning back from 8,300 meters, was it the right one? I remember feeling physically fit and ready for the rigors of the most hostile environment on the planet, with only 500 meters to go and so much at stake. 3 years of training and planning, 2 months away from family and 2 months away from work. And for all of us who work, will know how hard it is to get away from work for 2 months. Insane amount of funding. You know, for some it takes a part of bank balance to make one summit, one attempt to Everest. I paid around 50 lakhs. I had to raise sponsors and whatnot. It was all very hard. So taking a turn, you know, on the prediction of bad weather, it wasn't bad. It was only predicted that the weather was bad. I wasn't sure if that was the right decision. When I was in the airplane and I was thinking about these bodies that were going back with us, I had a lot of thoughts in my mind, and most of these thoughts were negative. You know, these people were with us in Kathmandu, and now they are going back in a box. I thought, what if this flight is ill-fated? You know, what if it crashes? You know, so many thoughts in my mind. Upon landing, I was walking out at the airport, and I saw my parents had come to get me. My mother ahead of my father, very excited. She's excited not because I was not able to summit. She's excited because her daughter has come back alive. You know, 2019 was a very fatal year for Everest. There was a lot of bad news that was coming that year, and a lot of people were dying. You may have seen that infamous queue that happened on Everest. So when my parents did not hear back from me, they were worried. They were worried, and when they finally saw me at the airport, they were very happy. So when I was walking towards my parents, I could clearly see my mother, but just a little away from my mother, there was one more lady. She was standing in a corner. She had no expressions on her face. You know who she was? She was Aparna's mother. She had come to get the body of her daughter. So I kept walking. I didn't know her, but I just knew of her because we had seen each other on Facebook. I kept walking when I saw my mother, and on the other side, I saw Aparna's mother. My mother was very happy. Her daughter has come back alive, even though she hasn't made it to the top. And Aparna's mother just standing there. Her daughter has made it to the top, but she hasn't come back. She's back in a box. Just while walking straight towards my mother and to be able to compare the look on my mother's face and Aparna's mother's face, I realized that sometimes in life, we have to step back to be able to move forward. You know, many times in life, we will all have situations where stepping back or stepping down is possibly the best option. But that doesn't mean that we have failed. You know, there's an old saying that history is often written by the winners. So when I started preparing for my own talk, you know, I started listening to a lot of the motivational speakers on YouTube. And when I did that, you know, I noticed there was one thing which was common amongst all of these speakers. You know what was that? They were all winners. They had all achieved what they had set out for. Some of them also giving out a message of do or die, and that you should take your chances. Clearly, these are the lucky ones who took that chance and came back alive. if I have to ask the same questions to the ones who did not make it back, I'm sure the answer would be slightly different. So what I learned was that everything that happens in life, it happens for a reason. We may not know the answers then, we may not know the reasons then, but eventually, we will know it. When I saw my mother and Aparna's mother next to each other, I got all my answers. The picture that you see on the screen is the highest point where I could make it. This is 8,300 meters. And I do hope that next time when we meet, maybe on the same stage, I may be showing you a picture from top of the world. Now, we all have busy lives, so many things to do. At the end of a busy day at work, we want to spend the rest of our day either with our family or with our friends. There was time to follow our passion when we were kids, like singing, riding, dancing. But as we grow, our priorities change, especially for women. Women have so many roles to play. Role of a mother, role of a sister, role of a daughter-in-law, role of a sister-in-law. The list would just go on. And in that process of managing, work front and office, we tend to kind of forget ourselves somewhere. We lose ourselves somewhere. I relate to that life. I have been working for 18 years, and I've been married for over 11 years. I also come from a Punjabi background, a Punjabi family where food is the way of life, and nobody is even remotely close to fitness. I was always a fat kid and grew up to be an individual who had a sedentary lifestyle. Until 2011, when I found myself, and this was very random, in 2011 I found myself to be riding with this bunch of enthusiasts who called themselves as Delhi cyclists. I remember signing up for this bike ride. It was only 5 kilometers, just randomly. I loved riding with them so much that I thought I want to do this. I started riding with them every week, and I'm talking about 2011. Within 3 months into riding with them, I get a call from the lead rider, and he invited me to join them for a bike race, a mountain biking race. When he said we're all going for mountain biking race, I refused. I had no idea what mountain biking was. I said, I'll skip, I'll pass. A little bit of convincing, and I said, yes, let's go for it. And if that wasn't enough, they went ahead and they signed me up for a women expert category instead of an amateur category, which basically meant that taking that round, just one round of mountain biking circuit, which is very hard, I had to do the same circuit 5 times. It was so hard. Now, you may want to call this as beginner's luck, but I stood second in that race. When they announced results, I couldn't believe it. I looked at the other riders, and then I just jumped with joy. Standing on that podium that day, holding on to that beautiful trophy and a check of 50,000 rupees, I discovered something within me that I didn't even know existed. That day changed my life. I started training regularly. I started making different choices. So now, instead of sleeping at 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, binge watching TV, I stopped all of that. I started getting up at 4 in the morning to train. The picture on the left is from 2009, and the picture on the right is from 2013. Over a period of time, I realized that now I'm getting into some serious mountain biking. I need more time to train. Now, the time that we spend with our family and the time that we spend at work is something we can't compromise with. So then, how do I make more time to train? Because I wanted to train. So then I started cutting on things that was consuming my time. I started cutting time on social media. It was taking a lot of my time. I stopped catching up with friends over coffee, just random catching up, going out clubbing. I stopped all of that. We didn't have Netflix those days. Now it's very popular, but we didn't have it then. But I would still binge watch a lot of TV soaps, and don't judge me for watching Ekta Kapoor shows that time. I cut all of that, and then that left me with some time, either before or after work, to train. In the last 11 years that I have been into adventure sports, I've managed to participate in some of the toughest mountain biking races across the country. I went on to making a Limca record for riding the longest distance in a foreign country. I scaled some of the highest peaks, some of the highest mountains across the globe, and that included Kilimanjaro in Africa, Elbrus in Russia, Aconcagua in Argentina, Kosciuszko in Australia, Kanamo in India, Mera in Nepal. As of last month, I did Mount Agong in Indonesia, and a wholehearted attempt at Mount Everest. Now, all this while holding on to a steady job. You know, very often they say when you start working and you have family, there isn't any time to do anything else. I don't believe that. While I do agree that it is always challenging to manage anything that goes beyond family and work. But then, it's all about the choices we make, the discipline we follow, and the actions we take, because anything of value doesn't come easy. You know, I've had my own struggle. But in the end, you know, the respect and the glory from each ride, from each expedition, it lives forever. So take out time from your busy schedule and do something that you always wanted to do, you know, something that makes you happy, something that will make you look back at your life and feel good, something that may just make you a storyteller. You know, in the last 18 years that I've been working, I've been able to achieve most of what I wanted to, and I can confidently say that you can have it all, provided you're willing to work for it. So just to summarize, everything we imagine is possible. And you don't have to quit your job to follow your passion. And the definition of success and failure is subjective. You know, for many, turning back from 8,300 meters may be a failure. But if I have to ask my son, who's turned 1 today, whether Mama took the right decision of turning back from 8,300 meter, I'm sure his answer would be a resounding, yes, Mama. Thank you. If I can get just 2 more minutes, maybe I can. Okay, I'll take 2 more minutes and maybe want to talk about this very touching incident that happened with me in Siachen Glacier. In 2016, I got selected by the Indian Army to go with them to Siachen Glacier. Army does take civilians, you know, just to give us a taste of what our bravest soldiers go through in the world's highest and coldest battlefield. So when I got selected, it was a matter of pride. So I went ahead and I updated my social media so that everybody knows that I got selected. A girl reached out to me. She was an acquaintance on Facebook, and she said, I'd like you to do me a favor. She went on saying that, can you please carry a message for me? It was a chit. If you could just carry to Siachen Glacier and bury it in Kumar Post. And then she went on explaining that her brother was serving in Siachen Glacier. He was serving for the Indian Army, and he passed away in Kumar Post. So if I could just carry the chit, that message with me and bury it in the snow, she would just like the brother to read it. When I heard that, I found it very touching, and I said, absolutely, it'll be my pleasure to carry your message for your brother. So she couriered that chit to me. It came to me from Bangalore. And I wanted to make sure that I do her work, so I kept that in my backpack. And I always kept it with me because it was a month-long journey. I didn't want to forget it, so I carried that with me. When I reached Siachen, not Siachen, but the base camp, when our training started, it was so hard. While I trained myself pretty well. But when Army starts training you, it's a different game altogether. The training was so hard that it tested me physically, emotionally, and mentally. I remember this caption at the base camp. It said, here, the great courage and fortitude is the norm. And then there was another very interesting quotation that I saw at Kumar Post, which will remain with me for the rest of my life. The land so barren and passes so high that only the best of friends or the worst of enemies visit us. So then the training continued. It was hard. And then in that 1 month, I forgot that I was carrying that message. But just when we were starting our journey back from Siachen Glacier, almost a month later, I stepped myself out of the camp and we started walking, and suddenly from somewhere, I remembered that I was carrying this message that I have to bury in the snow. So I made everybody stop with me. We were all roped up with each other because when you're on mountains, you have to rope up in case you fall in a crevasse. they're able to pick you up. So if I am stopping, everyone has to stop with me. I buried that shit. I buried that message in the snow. I did a little prayer, and I came back. Upon returning, the girl reached out to me again, and she asked me, did you do my work? So I said, yes, I did. But I must confess one thing. I actually forgot about it because our training was very hard, and so much that happened in 1 month, I didn't remember your message. But it seemed like your brother knew that I was carrying that message, because when I started my journey back, someone held me. And when I turned back, there was no one. It was your brother. I think he knew that I was carrying that message for you. He didn't let me go like that. I delivered your message, and I'm sure he's read it. Why I'm sharing this with you is, these are the moments, these are the experiences, that makes my life a lot more meaningful, a lot more constructive. From every expedition, I've had moments which are very, very touching, very emotional. And maybe these are some of the things that makes me want to continue, do what I'm doing. So with that, I'm going to end that session. And I do hope that you're able to follow your passion. And if you do, please drop me a note. And if I get even one message from the crowd today, I'm sure my job is done. My journey is far from over. You can follow me on Instagram, thatadventure_girl, or we can also connect on LinkedIn. I go by the name of Vamini Sethi. Thank you very much.
Vamini Sethi for you, ladies and gentlemen. And I now request Mr. Vinayak to please felicitate Vamini with a small token of appreciation.